Hey, everybody. And we are back with another edition of Badger Beer Travels, where we take a closer look at some of the lesser known beer scenes around our amazing state. I know that at some point we'll dive more into maybe some of the neighborhoods of Milwaukee and Madison, but it's fun to kind of highlight these places that fewer of folks have probably visited or maybe even heard about the breweries. And this month we are going to Superior. And if you are listening, maybe if you're not familiar with the Wisconsin geography and where things are located, Superior is pretty much as far north as you can get. There's a couple towns, I think, that if you go up onto the other little peninsula, you can maybe get a little bit further north, but it is situated right on Lake Superior. It's right across the St. Louis Bay from Duluth. So it's like less than 5 minutes essentially from downtown Superior to downtown Duluth. So they are kind of one small metro area, I guess you could say. Superior in itself is, if you're looking at if you're watching, you can see on the slide there the population over 26,000 people. It is bordered by 3 bays and framed by 2 rivers. So water has always played a major part of Superior. Hence, I don't think it doesn't necessarily take a rocket scientist to figure out that Superior is named for Lake Superior. It actually shares a harbor with Duluth, and it is one of the most important ports on the Great Lakes. And unlike, we were talking about some of the other places that we've talked about, whether it's Burlington or Oshkosh, that were kind of more centrally located to different things, Superior's out there a ways. I always like to include kind of frames of reference for how far it takes. If you're coming from Milwaukee, it's going to be a 6-hour drive to get up to Superior. So hopefully it's not a day trip. Even from a place like Eau Claire, which some people consider to be up north, it's about 2.5 hours. So, it is a really beautiful area, though, especially if you're going during the summer months when it's a little bit warmer out, easier to be outdoors. The other things to do I included are both actually across the bay in Duluth. But there's a lot to do there. The Great Lakes Aquarium, I know, is one of the largest freshwater aquariums in the country. The Canal Park area is wonderful to walk around. There's lots of shops and breweries, and we'll touch on that a little bit later. I'm going to highlight a couple of the Duluth area breweries after we discuss the Superior breweries, because that's, after all, what we are here for. So just to kind of give you a kind of lay of the land, we have 2 breweries in Superior, and they are both fairly close to each other, kind of around the main part of the city, Earth Rider and Thirsty Pagan. And as I kind of hint there on the map, you're only about 5 minutes across the bridge to get over to Duluth. So not that hard. Like, some people might say, oh, you're going out of your way. There's really only 2 breweries there, because outside of that, on the Wisconsin side of the border, you have to drive a ways before you get to any other breweries. But there's a whole bunch in Duluth as well. So you can definitely make a trip out of that, which is what my family did a few summers back. And I was able to visit both of the breweries in Superior as well. And we will start with the older of the 2 breweries, and that is Thirsty Pagan Brewing. They started back in 1996 with a small 2-barrel system and became a full-fledged brew pub in 2006. And they now are up to a 7-barrel system to kind of produce more of their beers. And actually, it was shortly after, it was right around the time, like, I forget, it was months, but it was early on when I visited, is when they had moved to their new location, which is the Soo Line Depot, which was actually built back in 1908 as a passenger depot by Wisconsin Central Railroad, and then purchased by Soo Line a year later. Some other fun facts about that: the last passenger service for this depot was in 1967, but it continued to be used as a freight depot until 1989. And I'm not familiar with this movie, but if there's any really big movie buffs out there that are aware of the movie Iron Will, apparently that 1993 movie was filmed, at least partially, here at the Soo Depot, which is kind of a little fun fact. Besides their beer, they also offer a wide variety of pizzas, calzones, and appetizers. It's got kind of, a laid back, traditional little feel. Greg saying in the chat here that he remembers that movie. So obviously, to be fair, I was born in 92. So it was kind of, 93 movie. I wasn't really watching movies when I was 1. So, fair point for me. But anyway, they do have some good looking pizza. I did not eat when I went there. I remember that, but I did see pizzas coming out and they looked really good. And they also host live music Wednesday through Sunday every week. So definitely seems like kind of a fun place to be. Pretty typical bar, restaurant-y type of feel. Some of the examples of the beer, if you're looking at the slideshow, you can kind of see listed there. I know some of their flagships include that North Coast Amber Ale and the Derailed Ale, which is a pale ale, as well as the Lawn Chair Cream Ale. And then the India Pagan Ale, which, obviously is just kind of a play on their name. It's their IPA. And they also make a dark ale called Burntwood Black. But they do also kind of, I was looking, at their tap list. They kind of step out of the box a little bit as well. Smokey and the Bandit's a sour ale. So they do get a little experimental with things. But they are, I believe, best known for kind of those traditional styles of beer that they produce. And next up is the relatively newcomer to the Black Earth Rider Brewing, though at this point, they've now been around. I think it's got to be, if it hasn't been 7 years already, it's going to be coming up on 7 years since they opened in 2017. So this is an interesting location because it is 2 separate buildings. I know the picture is a little small, but if you are watching, the bottom right picture there is primarily of their tap room. But if you can kind of look past that, there is a longer building kind of, in the background there, which is their actual production brewery. So the production brewery is located in an 1880s building that was actually constructed as a bakery. And then that building in the foreground is the Cedar Lounge, which is their tap room. And the Cedar Lounge actually dates back to 1912 and was a tied house tavern for Northern Brewing Company. And it is a really neat tap room because it is not, there's only been a couple other breweries. There's a couple others that I've been to that have the feel of just like you're a really homey, like kind of like almost like a dive bar type feel that you just feel, you walk in and you're just like, I just want to hang out here and chill and, talk to people. And it's just a really cool vibe. And a fun fact that I actually learned while I was researching this, because I did not know this, and I think this may be a newer thing. There is an apartment above the tap room there in that building that you can see the windows on the second floor. That is an apartment. And if you go onto VRBO, you can rent that apartment out even for just a couple nights. So if you are going to the Superior Duluth area and you want the shortest possible commute to a brewery, have I got a place for you? Because I even checked it out, looked at the pictures, and it seems like a pretty cool place just kind of, call for a night, because you could just go around to maybe a couple of the spots, end your night at Earth Rider, spend as long as you want to Earth Rider because you don't have to worry about going anywhere else, and then walk out the door, walk up the steps to your apartment and call it a night. And they also host a variety. Oh, Greg knows. Yeah, it's the shortest possible commute. I mean, besides having like a sleeping bag or like a cot in the tap room itself, it doesn't get any better than that. They host a bunch of events. I know live music is big there as well. They have, pretty regular bingo and trivia. They don't have quite the same amount of food, but I know they have some pub pizzas and warm pretzels, some snacks. But now we get into the real good stuff, and that is the beer. And as you can see, if you are looking at the slideshow and seeing what is listed behind these beers, Earth Rider has really made a name for themselves because they have won a lot of notable awards over the years. The North Tower Stout has won a gold medal at the World Beer Cup and has also won a silver and a bronze. It has a gold and a bronze from World Beer Cup and then a silver at GABF. And then they have 2 other beers that have both won at GABF. Their Duluth Coffee Pale Ale won gold in 2019, and their Royal Bohemian Pilsner won a silver medal at GABF in 2020. So they have numerous beers that have absolutely wowed folks and that have earned these medals. And they have a lot of other really good beers too. Their Caribou IPA is kind of another one of their flagship. The Superior Pale Ale is another one of their kind of their go-tos. My personal favorite from my visit was the Tap Shack Caribbean Lager, which I think had a little bit of like lime in there, just your nice, one of those beers that you could have a 6-pack and then all of a sudden you wonder where they all went. Just really, really good stuff. And then they, make a Goza. So they really kind of run the gauntlet with a lot of different things. But yeah, really, really good beer there. I would love it if their distribution kind of widened, to get their name, out to more people. But obviously, I totally get that, why it's not always feasible and it's difficult, especially when you're up all the way up there in Superior, you're not in a major metro area. But for where they're located and what they're doing, they are doing some phenomenal work. I would love to get back up there, be able to try more of their beers because they really do an excellent job. And so now kind of a little bonus, because I know we're doing this as Badger Beer Travels, but since you're a stone's throw across the bay from Duluth, I do have to shout out some Duluth breweries, because if you are going up Superior, chances are you're also going to be spending time in Duluth. And in particular, if you're there for beer, you're probably going to be going over to Duluth as well. Because like I mentioned, there's just a 2 in Superior and there's a whole bunch in Duluth. If you're looking at the slides right now, all the ones I have listed, that is not all of the breweries in Duluth. These are just some that I wanted to highlight because Duluth is one of my most underrated beer scenes in the country. Both because I think it's kind of a little bit smaller, but has a lot of breweries, and it's just very remote. So, even from the Twin Cities, it's several hours to get to Duluth. So I don't think enough people recognize and realize how many great breweries are up there. But you have breweries like Bent Paddle, which I know has won, Minnesota has some different beer awards and they've won different brewery awards and brewery brackets and that kind of stuff. And Ursa Minor, I would say Bent Paddle and Ursa Minor are probably my 2 favorite within the city of Duluth. And those are both just south of downtown, located really close to each other. And then you get to the Canal Park area. And if you're looking at that little map that I made, that's where that kind of grouping of breweries are, where within a few blocks, you have Hoops Brewing, you have Canal Park Brewing, which has the best view of any of the breweries in Duluth. It is located right on Lake Superior. They have huge windows, and they also have an outdoor area that backs right up to the lake, as well as the historic Fitger's Brew House, which is really good food, some good beer there as well. And then if you walk just a few blocks inward to downtown, Blacklist Brewing, they make some excellent beers, in particular the Belgian styles I loved. And then the other brewery that I wanted to highlight is actually half an hour further north. But if you're in Duluth, what's another half an hour? And that is Castle Danger Brewing in Two Harbors. Arguably maybe my favorite brewery in all of Minnesota. Their cream ale, their pale ale. They have started to do a little bit more with kind of some more interesting experimental stuff. But for the most part, they are well known for making 2-style beers across a variety of styles that are just right on the button, whether it's an amber ale, pale ale, like I mentioned, the cream ale, they're stout. There's not a whole lot. They're not adding in frou-frou funky ingredients. What you order is what you get, and they just do it exceptionally well. So yeah, that's just a little bonus. I know when I was talking to Greg about including this, we may do a deeper dive into Duluth at some point, because we may expand this, do a Badger Beer Travels, and also kind of highlight some brewery scenes that are within, a quick drive of Wisconsin, but wanted to highlight it since we are already up here. So, we are going to go here, and I just also, this is what I was looking for, my other slide from before when we were talking about let me pull up here since we're going to highlight. Oh, it's not there. When we were talking about the Badger beer report, one thing I wanted to mention to folks again is that if you have any information on breweries openings or closings, feel free to message us. Let us know about that. But otherwise, always a joy to get a share of another beer scene with everyone listening and following along. I already have next month's planned out. Really excited to share that one as well. And as always, whether it's where you are living or where you are visiting, be sure to drink local everywhere.